Good luck to both of our runners, and I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful time tonight. Again, I am Wef Jebster, and the runners should be off. There's probably about a 50-second delay, so I'll be guiding you through some of this stuff, and we'll see how this race goes for our runners. I don't know if any of you all were around for the race that was at 4 on this very channel earlier, but that was a good one. This is a 2-and-out tournament. We have a true final ending goal here. So far, we have seen our runners start with Nether Orb and Colossal Blade. Colossal Blade Plus, that is, so that's actually huge. It seems like we're not going to be hurting for damage early. Nether Orb is pretty good in its own right, and then Colossal Blade Plus, quite an interesting loadout to start off with. Let's see what these first couple checks are going to give our runners today. We have Shattered Orb minus. That's not going to be much of a help. It's the same damage type as the Nether Orb, and it's minus, so it's going to be doing a lot less damage. And nothing really helpful out of the bat for the first few checks out of the refugee camp. So we'll probably see some pretty similar routing, barring a really, really interesting first chest here, just to the left of the refugee camp. And it's Royal Ring, so no, we're probably going to see our runners do basically the same thing for the first couple of minutes here. All right, so like I said, Crimdahl, #1 overall speed, earned himself a first-round bye, and he was last year's champion, so he's kind of just on a roll. So we'll see if Crimdahl can keep that momentum up, but they do find Jin Inferno, which is a pretty good spell. In terms of damage right away, it's not going to be quite as good as Colossal Blade Plus, but it is a source of fire damage, which is very important. And there's Light Wall Plus, which is a great source of damage, and it is vertical progression. Our runners are going to be able to build ladders out of light walls in order to get places they wouldn't otherwise be able to get to. You'll see Crimdahl doing this right now. We'll get this check we call Bat Ledge. Zed deciding not to go that way. We'll see if anything interesting is on Bat Ledge. Fire Orb, not helpful. Our runners already do have fire, so that's not going to do much. Crimdahl opting to go down to, at very minimum, get this warp here. We'll see if he turns around. Yeah, he does. Zed having a quick look at the map. One of the key parts of these flags is we now have areas that can be flooded and areas that usually have water that won't have water. So Zed kind of probably taking a look now that he has Light Wall to see if he wants to go right or wants to go left. If he goes left, it looks like we did have a droughted Lake Serene. So there would be a lot over there that they have access to, especially when you consider that they also have fire. But in the end, Zed decides to turn back around and at least get the moat checks. We'll see how deep they decide to go into the castle. I didn't quite see if the basement loop of the castle was flooded or not when they were looking at the map. Yeah, Bonsai, that's correct. The main key there is if you're going to have Jin Inferno equipped already, then well, Zed getting one of the engineers there with the Colossal Blade, saving himself a trip up to the top, gets the security keycard A, which is not useful now, and it's actually probably going to provide our runners with some very interesting choices down the line. A couple of very time-consuming checks are hidden behind the A key card. You see Crimdahl doing a little more conventional way, going up to the top and killing those engineers with the Colossal Blade, and then having an unimpeded path up here with the Light Wall. Getting his security key card A. Zed up here getting this check. Since they have Light Wall, they're going to be able to do a lot of these one-offs that they would otherwise have to double back for. So that security key card A is kind of our main source of changed routing. One of the keys to this randomizer, at least when you're racing and when you're trying to play fast, is your ability to know when to dodge and know when to damage boost through enemies. Using Light Wall to jump over these big giants is going to be pretty key, because they are going to do a hefty amount of damage until our runners get armor. Now, I say that as Zed gets an Empress Robe, and even more importantly, the Teleria attachment, which is the fast movement. So it looks like both of our runners are going to be able to run early here. So this is going to make things a lot more speedy on both ends. We have a Crimson Vortex normal on Zed's side. And we'll see Zed continuing to just kind of be one room ahead. Zed deciding to go back to the refugee camp. Never mind. Probably. Oh, yeah. So what Zed was doing there, which this is a good call, he was using a teleporter. See, the loop is flooded. So he was using a teleporter, and this is smart because you can't use warp shards unless you've used a teleport at least once. So in the event that Zed were to pick up a warp shard somewhere over here in these checks, he would be able to warp shard back instead of having to save and quit. And you see Crimdahl opting not to do that, making up some time, and now he's about a half of a room ahead. They have Light Wall, and Crimdahl has opted to actually go up and go to the Royal Towers in order to pick up warp shards, probably here. 40 life is pretty precarious, but we'll see what, if Crimdahl actually does take any damage here. There are a couple of, okay, so he's just going to go back and use the warp there for his chosen warp. He'll probably be going, because he was talking about this earlier, about wanting to go up here and get warp shards early, skipping over the twins boss fight. So we have a bit of a routing divergence, but it's probably going to amount to about the same thing, since both of our runners are almost definitely going to do both of these things. The only advantage here is if the Royal Towers has a couple of checks here that Crimdahl doesn't have, that Zed doesn't have yet, because we know that the ones that Zed checked didn't have anything worthwhile. Zed missed out on the cheese strat here and is going to take a death to Ifrit, which is really not great. He put a Light Wall right on the spot that he needs to sit down on in order to cheese this boss. So that'll be a time loss for sure. Did seem like our runners already did have one warp shard. Crimdahl finding Azure Stoles in the Merchant Crow shop. It's the best accessory equipment in terms of raw stats in the game, so that's going to be a big boost in DPS for Crimdahl here. And it seems like he's going to stick around in the Royal Towers and go stop by this Struggle Juggle location. Zed, unfortunately, it looks like doesn't have a whole lot of means by which to do damage to Ifrit. If he would start stacking Light Walls now, it would probably go reasonably well. Crimdahl opting to get some of these Struggle Juggle checks here early. Twins is an early boss, but it does have a lot of HP, and going 5-8 damage at a time really isn't gonna cut it. Zed would have to start using some spells here. Meanwhile, we'll see if Crimdahl has an appetite for doing single jump light wall towers. Grabbing the save here in order to refresh his aura, and looks like he's gonna do it. Alright, Zed finished off with that fight. Didn't get anything of consequence from it, it looks like. That is a library keycard V, which is, again, not really useful right now. They both need present access and the tablet in order for that to pay off in any way, but since both of our runners are going to get that, that won't really create a routing divergence. What we're really looking at right now still is that A card and, to a lesser extent, the elevator key card that Crimdahl picked up in the Royal Towers, which is where Zed's going right now. Switching to Umbra Orb Plus that he picked up, and just in time as he runs into a boss that is weak to Umbra Orb. So he's taking advantage of orb swapping there to put more Umbra Orbs on the screen than he's really supposed to have. Making very, very quick work of the Azure Queen at Ilana. Alright, so Crimdahl's going to be going off to the right side of Ilana's tower now. He's going to get a couple of checks at the top of the tower and one check at the bottom of the tower, while sort of Zed is following in Crimdahl's footsteps here. We'll probably see Crimdahl at this rate with the Teleria attachment. He may decide to make the game prove that beating the twins is necessary. In most seeds, it would be in other flags, but using this flag set, there's no guarantee that you even need to kill all of the 3 past bosses to get past the laser gate. So, it's possible, especially with that Pyramid Beacon entrance, that's one of our Go Mode pieces that gives him access to the Ancient Pyramid. And it does look like Crimdahl's going to go ahead and pick up this twins boss fight. Now's a pretty good time to do it as any. You're already warping back to a place, so you've already used those frames to grab a warp. And so Crimdahl's going to grab those items and do the boss fight that Zed's already done and probably move on. For those who are unfamiliar, we are looking for 5 pieces of the Timespinner, which includes the Timespinner wheel, the Timespinner spindle, and 3 gears. The only one of which actually does anything in terms of gameplay in this flag set being the Timespinner wheel. And it allows you to stop time and stop all of your enemies and maybe even use them as platforms. And we might see some of that, but with Lightwall, probably not, since Lightwall is going to be all of the vertical our runners need. And you see Crimdahl stacking up light walls, and that's how quick that fight goes. The 2 Azure Stoles and those light walls really making quick work of Ifrit there. Alright, so Zed opting to only buy 1 Azure Stole. Maybe didn't want to menu manage as much. Alright, and actually warp sharding, instead of going up with single jump light wall, gonna go to the left here, where Crimdahl's going, and try to find a more efficient means of vertical movement. So we'll see if that saves him some time in Ilana's tower. He did already do a little bit of it. So he will just be going up there to kind of zoom up and beat the boss once he gets what he's hoping will be the Celestial Sash, which is our infinite vertical movement that you do not need any aura for. Just hit a button and you start going up. And as we saw earlier on the map, We do have a dry Lake Serene, so we do not need the water mask to traverse through the bottom of Lake Serene. Crimdahl going back and backtracking into the Kantarin fight here, which is Zarian. Again, the light wall stacking, really, really effective here. All right, we'll see how Ehseezed does here. He's also using a little bit of light wall stacking. Another part of the boss fights in this randomizer is largely making sure like you know how much damage things are dealing to you in the moment, knowing how many hits you can tank before you actually die, which is very important to know. Because if you know you only really need one hit point to stay alive. We have our runners pretty much in sync now. We have a librarian hat, which is their best option for headgear right now. So Crimdahl goes ahead and equips it. And the movement here, I mean, this is kind of the difference between the 1 seed overall and last year's champion. You see the movement here is just really nice by Crimdahl, really smooth, everything's so calculated. So he's doing a really, really good job here. And Zed, struggling to get up there with the light wall. See if he has any aura regeneration, and he has a couple ethers there. And this is... oh, geez. Yeah, he's just going to have to move on after that. Crimdahl's going to tag the warp here, go up to the top, probably fight Azure Queen and burn some vines. Zed really does not want to leave this check behind. And it is an Oculus ring, which is no help. Alright, well, we have the cat robot affectionately referred to as Boots at the Azure Queen spot. It's an early game boss at an early game spot, so no real trouble there. Boots doesn't really have any weaknesses, but he is the first boss in the game, so he does have some real tutorial core elements to his AI and his movement. Although at a late stage in the game, the Rocks Fall attack that Boots does do a lot of damage. Zed started to go down into the Maw Caves, has appeared to change his mind. Or just wanted to grab the save point down here before heading up. While Crimdahl goes, and he does have access to everything in this cave, so he's just going to go ahead and full clear it. He has already killed Ilana and the twins, so killing one more boss here will give him access to the military hangar as soon as our runners find present access. We don't really know where that is yet. Crimdahl's going to make a quick jump over here to get this jackpot room. It's 4 checks in rapid succession. That gives the D card and an Eternal Crown. Again, nothing that's really... Oh, and a princess dress. Nothing that's really helpful right now. Still looking for present access. It's got to be somewhere. And it's not there. It is arm cannon. We did not know what gun orb was, so that is good information that gun is just normal. There's the modern warp beacon, and it's Lake Desolation, so they have that elevator keycard, but don't quite need it yet. All right, our runners don't have gas mask yet, so this is technically out of logic, but this plasma crystal is in logic. Just a chaos rose plus the top of this elevator shaft they're going to go up. And yeah, no save there, so it doesn't look like... Well, Crimdahl, it really depends. Crimdahl might drop back down and do the Maw fight, depending. They don't have the water mask, so the top of the Maw caves really isn't a great value play right now. But there is a gear, and it does look like Crimdahl's just going to warp shard to the present and start doing those checks. He already burned vines, so there will be a split. We'll see if Crimdahl decides to do the entire Lake Desolation or just pick a route and then head in towards the library. With that D key card and the elevator key card, he can do quite a lot. And there's the water mask, just in time to ditch some water checks. Now, the water in this game... Oh, there's another Timespinner gear. After 20 minutes of not having any gears, we are kind of racking up the pieces of the Timespinner. But the water in this game makes you move very slow, so some runners will decide, you know, I'm going to wait until the last possible second to go underwater. I just don't want to go underwater. It saves time. It's more efficient in terms of checks. Now, in this seed, we know that the castle basement is flooded. So there are a lot of... That's a pretty check-dense location, but it is underwater. So that's another, I guess, routing decision that we're going to see once Zed gets that water mask. If he revisits some of these underwater places, or if he takes the same route as Crimdahl and stays above ground, or above water. Just a shield ring at the vanilla Timespinner wheel location. Not much help there. Of note, the first seed that Zed played in this tournament, he did an out-of-logic Maw fight, and it ended up forcing him into Zarian Caves, which ended up paying off for him in a big way. It had 2 required items. So we'll see if Zed decides to do an out-of-logic Maw fight again, and we'll see if that pays off. They do have the A card yet again, and they do definitely have access to Zarian Caves without running out of oxygen. So it's a possibility. Yeah, Crimdahl's probably going to take that same tactic, stacking light walls on this boss, and it's over. That is the first boss fight in the game. Not a whole lot of HP there to muscle through, so quick boss fight. Ooh, I think Zed, yep, Zed just light wall jailed himself there. And there's the tablet. It's a really good time to find the tablet. Right before you're gonna go into the library with the V card, getting the C card from the librarian. And getting the B card out of the V card room. That is a lot of present access. That is full present access, actually, with that elevator key card. So, yeah, we'll see where Crimdahl goes and which path he decides to take. Now that Maw fight, with the tablet and the B card, that out-of-logic Maw fight becomes a little bit more appetizing for Crimdahl. Because it will open up the military hangar and the lab, which both of them respectively have a lot of checks. There is the Timespinner wheel and an Empire crown. We find Genza at the Maw. Zed is doing the check. He does have Colossal Blade, which Genza is weak to, but it does cost a lot of aura, and he did use a lot of aura getting these light wall jumps. He does have a high ether in reserve and takes care of the Maw fight. So yeah, here we go. There's a couple things that this could mean. There's a Celestial Sash on Crimdahl's side in the library. Things are going pretty darn well for our returning champion right now. We'll see what Zed does here with the lack of a gas mask. Has access to the present. But our library is indeed very loaded. Having full access to the tower, we'll see if Crimdahl goes into the tower. He's definitely going to skip the left side of the tower initially anyway. Grab this portal that leads to the military hangar, and we'll see if he ducks back into the tower or if he just continues into the hangar. Nope. Yeah, he's going back into the tower. He, again, has full access to it, so no reason not to. They used ethers in drill that they could have had otherwise, so that's why it was relevant. The present access is the modern warp beacon, which that is part of the Unchained Keys flag, which is new since the last time we had a tournament here. Zed looks like is going to do the upper caves check without the water mask. So this is also something Crimdahl hasn't done. We'll see if this pays off. Right away, the Varney's Spider Hell does not pay off here. It was in the Maw Caves at the room that was just under Jackpot Room. And the portal was the Lake Desolation, the vanilla starting location. Yeah, Ian Drill, there was light walls earlier in the seed that they were using in order to get to a different location. And they had to use ethers to respawn their aura so they could get to that location. Yeah, this is all in logic because Crimdahl has the gas mask. Well, and it's not currently in logic for Zed because he does not have the gas mask. And he decided he's gonna get that one check. Oh, he hasn't burned the vines yet. That set of vines yet either. So we will we'll see how far Zed runs in the present here. Crimdahl just going through Varney's tower here. Gonna fight the Varney boss. He does have the C card, so it is gonna be a quick fight here. Not an optimal fight, but again, with Light Wall plus spells and plus orbs do kind of take a lot of the thinking out of many of these bosses. Alright, Zed is going to be getting some stuff here that we already know pay off, at least with the gear here anyway. On his way to the library. Finds the oxygen safe room, so he's going to take a breather. Make sure his oxygen refills, probably drop some heals before rushing to the save point. Oh, that's an Empire Orb. You might want to grab that, see what it is. Oh, it's minus. That would have been an incredible amount of damage for our runners if that was a plus. Blood Orb is there, and the 2 chests you get for beating the Maw did not pay off. Haven't really had any new developments here. Yeah, Crimdahl finishing out the tower. He's gonna... We'll see if he goes down to the sewers. Yep, yeah, he's gonna finish off the tower by going down to the sewers. And we get a max health up from Zed, which will buy him a couple more seconds, but he's probably going to need to use more healing here. He's got 2 high potions, so he's kind of running out. He's almost done with the gas runs. All he has to do, even if he goes and grabs the save point and then backtracks to... was that the gas mask? Hold on. That was the gas mask. Wow. What a location for that gas mask. So, that is something that Zed has, in terms of knowledge at least, on Crimdahl. Now, there's not really much to do with that gas mask now that Zed's done the gas run, except for the bottom of Lake Desolation, which we already know kind of doesn't have much value. It's something Crimdahl's already done. Sewers also no value. So Crimdahl in kind of a drought in terms of important items, but still very, very much ahead with all of those library cards plus the Timespinner wheel. Zed going to go ahead and finish Lake Desolation before going to the library. It was only self-locking because Zed did the Maw out of logic. Technically, that boss that he beat at the Caves of Banishment is not in logic until you get the gas mask. But some runners will choose to do it anyway because you can do that Maw run and kind of combine all of those into one check instead of having to turn it into a double dip. But here, Crimdahl going and getting that Blood Orb, not getting the 2 chests that only show up after you beat the Maw, but Crimdahl getting that gas mask right away. And so we'll see if he decides to go fight the Maw. Zed going into Zarian Caves, a late game area. Oh, nope, just getting the skeleton and dipping out. Right now, I would say that since they're... well, it's hard to say. It's hard to say, bro. Logic assumes you won't beat Maw without gas mask. So we've determined now at this point, given that Crimdahl, who is ahead right now, is still looking for 2 pieces of the Timespinner, that some of this is going to be to the right of the laser gates, which would mean that yes, Maw is required. But if both of the remaining Timespinner pieces are in Zarian Caves and everything to the right of the library is total bait, then maybe the gas mask was not required. Because then the Maw would not have been required, and thus the gas would have never been in the present. The gas that shows up in the present only shows up after you defeat the Maw, which is why the gas mask is considered logical for anything that is past the Maw. Crimdahl going into the military hangar, probably towards the lab. Zed heading into the library to... There's the spindle. We are 1 gear short of go mode. That is pretty incredible. Crimdahl has infinite vertical access, and it'll be interesting to see, being 1 gear shy of go mode, will he go to the lab or will he just go straight to the pyramid in the hopes that the final gear is there and he doesn't even have to go into the lab? And it turns out Crimdahl is opting, with all of his great movement tech here with the Teleria and the Celestial Sash, worth it to just kind of go and do the lab. Any one of these checks, he just uses a Warp Shard and then goes to the end game. Crimdahl switching to Jin Inferno. It's not plus, but it's still the most powerful spell in the game. Brawler, actually, this randomizer can self-lock items that aren't required. That is something that this randomizer can do. It's just, in this case, it is basically confirmed that the gas mask was available to our runners, and so therefore it was not locked behind anything that wasn't in logic. All right, Zed heading into the Varney area. We'll see if Zed decides that... wait. Oh, the V card was in Alana's tower. And Zed hasn't finished that yet. So that means he's missing out on the B card, which was in V. Okay, so that's explaining his routing up into the tower. All right, well, we have a Ravenlord at Ravenlord. So this is a vanilla fight. It's got a lot of HP, but it is weak to that giant colossal blade that they have. Yeah, I would say, like, the thing is, like, Zed's behind right now, but if the fact is that this seed didn't require anything to the right of the library, Zed would be, like, super ahead. So it's a gamble that, you know, you can take. Just didn't pay off, really. Didn't pay off here. So Zed's going to be fighting the Emperor Volturilis at Varnagrath. Getting a trap for his troubles, and heading down to the rest of the tower. Alright, well, we have Sandman at Genza. Again, weak to Umbra, and able to use that orb swapping to great effect to get to the second phase here really quickly. Maybe got a little cute with that light wall strat there. But does a lot of damage, takes care of Sandman. The Reward is a max health up, and Crimdahl going to be heading into the pyramid for the search for that final gear. We'll see if it's in this endgame area. This area is only accessible now through a recent flag called Enter Sandman, which allows you access to the pyramid with the twin pyramid key. But the door to Sandman does not open until you have all 5 pieces of the Timespinner. So at this point, we know the spindle is in the military hangar. And so Zed will have to eventually... Mayef with the kill on the Hellgazer. Good effort. Good job, Mayef. And we're getting a regret chest check from Crimdahl. With all of this movement speed, it's really not that bad. jump over everything, get the last gear that you need. Oh, nope. Okay. Save and quit out of the regret chest room, back to the save point at the bottom of the pit. And so there is one more check here, and it's the check that is right before the boss door. Zed going into Ilana's tower, didn't find his double jump, didn't find his celestial sash, because it turns out that both of those things are locked behind beating Ilana in the tower. It's very, very unfortunate gambles here. Just really, just the calls just didn't work out for Zed this seed. All right, nothing in the pyramid, but you have to go get that warp anyway. Crimdahl has the wheel. It looks like he's going to go into the temporal gyre, and there's your V, which will get you to your B, Zed, but you got to do Ilana still. Yeah, there you go, Zed. Switching over to those Umbra Orbs, finally. Taking advantage of that weakness. Now, the play for Zed here has to be immediately go to the library as Crimdahl finds a Nether Shade, stacks 3 light walls on top of it, and then unfreezes time, and the Nether Shade immediately dies. One of my favorite strats to kill one of the more annoying enemies in the game. All right, Crimdahl headed to Waterfall, it looks like. They did not have the water mask coming up this way, so Crimdahl might be doing all of the underwater checks that were skipped over earlier. And there's the warp beacon that Zed was missing. And yeah, here Crimdahl goes. He's gonna go do all these underwater checks. Neither of our runners have done those yet, so those could be the location of the last gear. Zed going to this underwater check, the basement loop, which neither runner has done yet. So, I mean, this is a place. These are 2 places where we could very well find the location of our final gear. At which point it will be just a race to who checks the last remaining place first. And this is particularly dangerous for Zed, as someone who doesn't have the Celestial Sash. I believe. No, the Slash was before the Spindle, so. If Zed does get the Spindle, he will have the Sash. So that wouldn't be too dangerous. What would be dangerous is if Zed hit Go mode without that Celestial Sash and without that Succubus Hairpin. Yep, nothing here in the underwater checks in the upper Maw Caves. And we'll see, we have 2 more chests here in the flooded castle loop. And nothing there. So that was a waste. Crimdahl looking for that final gear. He's been 1 item short of Go mode for so long, he's got to be kicking himself. Like, where could this thing be? Finally making that trip down into Zarian Caves. So both of our runners are actually going there at the same time, which unfortunately is not great for Zed. Zed really needed Crimdahl to do something that he wasn't doing. Mostly because if the gear is here and it's early, Zed is going to continue to do the Zarian Caves as he is missing the Spindle. Whereas Crimdahl will stop doing Zarian Caves because he will then be in Go mode. Oh, Zed has Sash, you're right. My mistake. Sash was in library, I guess, behind... My mistake. Trying to keep up with 2 different runners at the same time is kind of difficult. That's a bombardment minus. Unfortunately not usable. All right. Crimdahl just casually hitting all 5 of those slimes with a Radiant. All right, we've got a couple more checks down here in Zarian Caves. We will see if the Zarian fight is required. That would be interesting. And the last chance before Zarian. Oh, and also Zarian fight is going to be flooded. So here we have eels instead of snails. Oh, yeah, instead of the wyverns, I mean. Nice little touch for when it's flooded. And Crimdahl opting to go to Emperor's Tower instead of doing the Zarian fight. Probably a smart move in terms of check density. Still striking out on getting that final gear. Crimdahl, I think, is running out of warp shards and has to come pay a visit to the Merchant Crow. All right, yeah, so it looks like Zed's going to be on his way to get that B card out of the V room. And he's going to the pyramid instead of to the hangar. Again, not a bad play regardless, because you do have to go check. You have to go hit that portal up anyway. The only real downtime you have is backtracking up the stairs or using a warp shard. So, not a terrible play if you have the ability to go through the pyramid quickly. But neither of our runners have found that final gear yet. Kind of really wondering where it could possibly be. It could be way up there, or it could be down at the bottom of this tower. And there it is. It is at way up there. Crimdahl is in go mode. So we'll get to see who our final fight is. We fortunately do not have a flooded fight. This is another one of the areas that it is possible to be flooded, which means you have to do the final 2 bosses underwater. We've got Dad, got Emperor Nuvius here. Crimdahl again, stacking light walls, waiting for the enemy to spawn in, and then crouching down and using that Radiant Orb, orb swapping tech, and there's the first part of the boss. Let's see who the final boss is. It's Varney, another great reason to use Light Wall. Very, very weak to Radiant. The Light Walls will just sit there and stack on top of Varney while he sits there. This should be a quick fight, and there it is. That is a GG, exclamation points for Crimdahl. Congratulations to Crimdahl. As is tradition, we have exclamation points to determine our GGs the exclamation point being the first thing that Lunea says after you defeat the final boss. I'm going to see if I can get Crimdahl in here for a quick post-race interview. Meanwhile, Zed has picked up the gear that is here in the military hangar. And there is Crimdahl. Hello, Crimdahl. Congratulations. And exclamation points to you.
Hey, thank you so much.
I have to do some quick done and forfeit. There we go. Yeah, so pretty wild last half of that seed, I would say, right?
Yeah, kind of not really the decision I should have made, putting off Daddy's Tower in favor of Zarian, but
yeah,
you know, sometimes you
go ahead.
Sometimes you make a play, you realize I should have done something different in the middle, but I mean, you got to commit.
Yeah, that's just about that is just about the whole nature of this randomizer in particular, with how wide open it is. Zed, welcome into the booth. Well raced. It was a wild one. There were a lot of just, where's the last Timespinner piece? You know, talk here, because really the Timespinner piece you were missing in the hangar was sort of on the way to the other Timespinner piece that you were missing. And so honestly, it was close. It was just, you had the last Timespinner gear was at the way up there chest in Emperor's Tower.
Okay. So that's the one I missed. I'm still missing. It's way up there.
Yeah, it's way up there. This was really well raced. We were discussing, we as the viewers and myself as the commentators, we didn't even know where the final gear was. Usually one runner has it or the other has it, and they're both looking for something that the other one has. No, this time it was just a buried final go mode. So that was very exciting to watch. Crimdahl had already remarked on, regretting not doing Emperor's Tower sooner. What do you how do you feel about the way you ran and routed this one, Zed?
I feel like I went for a bit of a more unorthodox style of play. I tried to do some things that were maybe a bit crazy, because I knew going into this that Crimdahl, if I had to go and do everything that Crimdahl was doing, I was going to be slower just from lack of experience. So I was trying to see if I could find something weird early and get there. I don't regret not doing a lot Elena's towers with only light wall. I'm glad I went back with Sash, but I think my unorthodox routing for this race really didn't help me out in the end.
Your Ilana's Tower routing wasn't really that strange. In these kinds of seeds where you don't necessarily have to get to the right of the laser gate, the backtrack across that big balcony is the same as the run from the portal over to the tower proper. So if you decide to warp out of there and then come back and do Ilana's Tower later, it's not really that much time loss. It's a little bit of a vertical time loss. You have to dodge some enemies here and there, but it's really not that much of a time loss. It's just with how dry the early progression was. Yeah, I think it's just at that point, just assuming that the game's going to make you go at least to the hangar was kind of a foregone conclusion. But I can definitely respect the strategy. Having to go up against Crimdahl is no small feat.
Yeah, I'm not at all disappointed with where I finished because, I mean, I'm on my way, but I still have a whole lab clear in front of me as well as Dad's Towers, which is expedited with Light Wall, but yeah, that's probably about what I expected going into this. I was hoping I could pull something out, but
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately,
happens.
this was a bit of a conventional seed in terms of what it was asking you to do. So none of the weird plays really paid off. Crimdahl, we were talking about, I guess, like a couple weeks ago, how you had taken a huge break and hadn't really played a lot, but your movement seems still pretty good.
I was honestly surprised when I got back into it. It's just apparently it's just like riding a bicycle. You just pick it right back up.
Yeah, it looked really good. Chat was into it. It was real fun to watch. I know a lot of people are new to this randomizer still, and honestly, with some of the things that Zed was doing, even like there was a lot of split decisions and routing decisions that made sense. And then a lot of people who are kind of newer to the randomizer can learn a lot from watching these tournament races, which is what I really love about doing something on something like Speedgaming Live, especially having the opportunity to be on the Prime Speedgaming channel. This is really awesome for 2 Timespinner Randomizer races in a row. I really hope everybody's been enjoying it. So Zed, you are not out of this. It is double elimination. If I pull up the standings, and
I believe I'm up against Goku Black next.
You are up against Goku Black. Yeah, Goku Black fell in round 1 to Lunar Ray Games, who is like, the developer of Timespinner. So no shade there. I think that's got all the makings for another really good race. What do you all think of the seeds so far? I know you've been playing and watching.
I've quite enjoyed them. I like the idea that you can gain some information by map checking early and seeing, I can get items in the underwater section or the typically underwater Lake Serene, and I don't have water mask. So I had that information, and that kind of influenced my decision to not clear towers.
Yeah, we saw you do a really early map check, and just to the left of the basement loop, you were like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and use the warp right now. And that was to set up warp shards, obviously, because you all had collected a warp shard. So you had that available to you if it was necessary.
Yep.
What do you think of the seeds so far, Crimdahl?
I think all the seeds have been very fun. This one was a bit kind of very similar to kind of like last year's races, a little bit more traditional. I don't think I think we might have actually peaked with our first race.
That first race.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the first race, go back and give that a watch. That was something else.
Yeah, Zed, you were part of that race, weren't you?
I was.
You was.
I was. It hit 40 minutes and I was terrified that I was so far behind, but that's just kind of how the seed played out.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have the big playlist of VODs from this tournament on YouTube at some point. They are really good resources to people who are just getting into the rando, and honestly really fun watches, even if you do know the outcomes. It's really great, and if anybody's interested in this randomizer, it's really easy to get into. It's awesome to see every year we do this. We get more and more participation, and it's great to see. Do we have first? Well, let's go with Zed. Do you have any final thoughts on this or the rest of the tournament that you want to shout out?
No. Well, I would like to shout out Jarno for making this wonderful randomizer, and
Yes.
Lunar Ray Games, Bodhi, for making this wonderful game. So that's my shout outs.
All right.
Yep, same shout outs here, as well as thank you so much for commentating with, and thank you to Speedgaming for being such gracious hosts and arranging this tournament.
Yeah, I'll echo all of those sentiments from our runners today. I know we threw the link up earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and do it again. Make sure you follow these runners. Arrow Razor, that is not updated. Well, I don't know how to update that, but it is the names that you see on the stream in front of you. Go ahead and give these runners a follow. They deserve it. And I guess we are done for Timespinner for the day, but Speedgaming is not done. We have some more Timespinner tomorrow. I believe we have 2 races on the docket, so that should be fun. And I'm stalling for Bonsai to update the in about 2 minutes. All right, well, I can stall. I can talk. If anybody knows me, they know I can talk for 2 minutes.
We could talk about how absolutely stacked the library was this season.
Yeah, how about that library? That was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that was really nice to find. I felt pretty good about that, even if I did have to do the gas runs because I killed Ma.
Yeah, I had called out that was what you did in the first race, and it paid off in a major way doing that Maw fight out of logic. But again, the weird stuff just didn't pay off in this seed.
No.
All right, well, there's our runner's command. Thank you, Bonsai, for that. And it confirmed we have 3 races of Timespinner Randomizer tomorrow across all your speed gaming channels. So that's going to be a really good time if you want to come hang out with us. It's a fun randomizer to watch. It's a fun randomizer to race. Speaking as somebody who doesn't really race speed run or race randomizers all that often, this is really near and dear to my heart, and I want to thank our runners today for putting on a good show. Again, unfortunate ended in a forfeit, but the race was a lot closer than it did look on paper. Given normal routing, like, it was a 1 Timespinner piece race for largely the entire seed. So very well raced. Good seed to look back on the VOD and take notes on if you want to take notes on. Congratulations again to Crimdahl, and I'll see you in the next round against your opponent, Lunar Ray Games, or Bodhi, the developer of the randomizer. What are your thoughts on that, Zed? Your next opponent being Bodhi.
I thought I was up against Goku Black.
Goku Black, sorry. Goku Black lost against Bodhi. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Did you happen to catch that that Lunar Ray Games Goku Black race?
I did catch that race. I don't know. I think it'll be a good match. Both fantastic runners, so I'm quite excited to just keep on with the tournament.
Yeah, best of luck to you in the next round. And again, Crimdahl, congratulations. Your next opponent, since you are technically in the 3rd round, may not be determined for quite a bit. We do have a double elimination tournament, so we have to get through our 1st round before we start really figuring out who these matchups coming up are. But until then, I think that'll about do it for us. The next twitch.tv/speedgaming Prime channel game is not for another 52 minutes, so I'm sure we'll send you over to something quite delightful somewhere else on Speed Gaming. From the entire Timespinner Randomizer community, I've been WefJebStrong Comms, Crimdahl, Zed, thank you so much for this race. Bonsai, thank you for the restream setup and the crop, and Speed Gaming Live, Speed Gaming in general, thank you again for being such gracious hosts and, hosting our little indie Metroidvania randomizer tournament this year. It's been really fun in the past, and we have a lot more fun races in the future. And that will be it for all of us. Signing off, and I will see you next time.
Thanks for watching.